Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Mamba's Legacy podcast. Today I'm joined here by Tyler from Hoop Venue. What's up, Tyler?
Nothing much. How are you doing?
Great. Super excited to have you on today. So, we are potentially hours away from the end of the NBA season if the Bucks do in fact get the win tonight. What have you taken away so far from this Bucks run?
What I've taken away mostly is how phenomenal Giannis is, specifically because there were a lot of narratives surrounding his game and whether he could be that guy on a championship level team. And I think those narratives have pretty much gone because Giannis has pretty much done what everyone was questioning if he could do. Um, Scoring at a high level, playing amazing defense. And I'm really impressed with Budenholzer as well, making great adjustments in the finals specifically. Because a lot of people were questioning whether he would even have a job next year because the Bucks were expected to potentially not even get out of the first round against Miami. So I think they exceeded all expectations for sure.
They really did. And I think it was really nice in the last game. We really saw the Bucks big three, as I like to call it. They all three really played a complete game and they really all played well together. After Holiday not having the best first couple of games in the series, we really saw him come to life. He had some good stops there at the end. We know he's a great defensive player. Middleton was clutch when he needed to be. Great aid to Giannis. And then, of course, Giannis this whole series has really been impressive overall. He's been putting up big numbers, and it's after coming back from that injury a while back to where he is now, it really just highlights who he is as a player. And I think he is really driven, and he definitely has shown us in this final series that he can overcome any obstacle and he's really going to step up for his team. What have you thought about what you've seen from the Bucks specifically in that last game?
Well, I've noticed the way, well, first off, their defense has been historic. They've been amazing defensively in multiple series now, starting all the way back in Miami. And in last game specifically, I noticed they're really taking away Chris Paul from preventing him from getting to his spots. Chris Paul loves to go right and end up around the elbow, and that's where he can rise up for a mid range or dump it off to DeAndre Ayton. And the Bucks have really forced him to his left, where I wouldn't say he's uncomfortable, but a lot less comfortable. And from that point, you don't have Chris Paul really able to make plays at the level we know he's capable of. So you're forcing the ball to go in Devin Booker's hands, and the Bucks are kind of taking away Booker's playmaking. They're making him score where Booker, obviously phenomenal scorer, crazy tough shot making, especially the last two games. But the Bucks are kind of forcing the Suns to play hero ball, where it's like the Suns have had this great ball movement system all year. Monty Williams implemented amazing movement. They love to pass the ball around the perimeter to shooters. And the Bucks have done an amazing job at preventing them from playing their brand of basketball. And I think that's why they're up 3-2 right now.
Most definitely. And for sure, when you think about the way the Bucks have really been able to make the Suns vulnerable in those ways, I think that's what it comes down to in the finals, because these are both very good teams, as we know. They've made it this far. And I think it's about who can really make the other team show their weaknesses the most. And overall, in the last game, we got to talk about the Suns in that game, because by no means did they really have a terrible game. I mean, they came out really hot. They were up 37-21 at the end of the first, and it really looks similar, in my opinion. I believe it was game 5 against the Lakers earlier in this playoffs where they came out hot. They were making everything happen around them. They were passing. It was really everything just looked like it was going to go in the Suns' favor. And in that game, at that point, I think a lot of people almost counted the Bucks out. But then later on, as the game progressed, they, as you were mentioning, they were really forced to play in isolation. And that's not how they operate, as you were saying as well. And it really allowed them to show their weaknesses. Of course, Booker did have a 40-point game. It wasn't Chris Paul's best game by any means, but what do you think that the Suns need to do tonight to be able to overcome this and advance in the series?
I really think they need to just run their sets. I feel like the Suns at the beginning of last game obviously came out phenomenal. They were running their sets. And their offense the whole game was great. And they just need to continue running their sets. One of their problems has been closing games. The last two games, they had a chance to close them both, and just they let it get away from them, which is a testament to how resilient the Bucks have been this playoffs. But also the Suns kind of falling out of what they do in crunch time, not running their sets, and also I think they just need to they need to not, because most teams the way they stop Giannis is form a wall and make his teammates beat you. And the Bucks teammates have been doing that. Chris Middleton has been phenomenal these last few games. Drew Holiday had the Drew Holiday game in game 5. And I feel like this game, you kind of have to take the ball out of those players' hands and make Giannis beat you. You don't want Giannis's teammates beating you shooting 50% from three on just open threes. I think they just need to run their sets offensively and make the star players beat you.
Right. I feel like I can agree with that. That's really what you have to do at this point. Do you personally see the Suns getting the win today, or do you think it's Bucks in 6?
It's really tough to say. I really thought the Suns would win game 5, so it kind of threw off my whole thing. But I do think the Suns will win tonight. My prediction is still Suns in 7. I know it's kind of like the non-popular opinion right now, but I really think the Suns, Monty Williams will adjust, I think. And going into the series, I knew it was going to be a coaching chess match. I thought Monty was going to clearly outcoach Budenholzer. But like I said, Budenholzer has been making the proper adjustments to get the Bucks to where they're at right now. And I just feel like I do really feel like the Suns are the better overall team, and I think they'll pull out this series with back-to-back wins.
Your opinion, I have seen it's not the most popular opinion, but we actually ran a poll on Mamba's Legacy Twitter, and 44% of people said they think it's going to be Suns in 7 as well. I feel like I'd want to believe that. I really want to see the Suns believe it. I really want to see the Suns believe it as well to just get that win. I feel like it'd be amazing for Chris Paul, but at the same time, they are a bit more youthful if you really think about it. So I have to go with Bucks in 6 for tonight. Max, actually the host of this podcast, he originally went with Bucks in 6 when the Suns were up 2-0. So everyone told him he was crazy. So maybe he wasn't so far off after all, now that we're at this point. But I'd like to ask you, what do you think of the role players so far in this final series?
I think Brooke Lopez has been phenomenal as a role player for the Bucks. He's been spacing the floor really well and kind of pulling Ayton out where Giannis can get to his spots more effectively. And I think that's really tough when you have a center that can stretch the floor like that. Even if he's not hitting his shots, which he really hasn't been hitting his shots much this series, it's the fact that he's pulling out the rim protection for Giannis to get to his spots, which is just adding immense offensive value on top of him being a great rim protector that allows Giannis to kind of roam around the court free. And as we saw, that block by Giannis was phenomenal. Also, Pat Connaughton has been absolutely phenomenal on both ends of the floor. He's been really scrappy defensively as a man defender. And offensively, he's been spacing the floor again at a great level, as well as Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis, the Bucks play really good with him on the floor. I know he wasn't playing at the beginning of the series. When the Suns went up 2-0, I don't think Portis played in either of those games, if I remember correctly. Then they started playing him again back in Milwaukee. Bucks tie the series 2-2. And on the Suns side, I've always loved Jay Crowder. He's a great outside shooter and defender, and he keeps the flow of the offense moving really well with his passing ability. And, of course, Mikal Bridges. I seen a stat where I think Bridges, in games that he shoots more than 10 shots, the Suns are undefeated in the playoffs or something like that. And in this series, more of the same. He's been phenomenal. But in the last 3 games, he stopped getting his opportunities, and the Suns have lost 3 straight. So I think the Suns, another way they can win is go to Bridges, because he's been phenomenal these playoffs.
He definitely has. And earlier when the finals were just starting out, Max and another guest we had on were really discussing who overall has the better bench of both of these teams, because overall they both have a pretty strong bench. So going off of what you just said there, who do you think has the better bench?
I would say the better bench goes to I'll probably say the Suns. The Bucks have a very solid bench, but I really do think Cam Johnson and Cam Payne, the two Cams, are phenomenal bench pieces. Cameron Johnson's a great off-ball player and has been extremely efficient all playoffs. And Cameron Payne can come in for Chris Paul and keep the flow of the offense going as a playmaker. And I really feel like those two guys coming off the bench in a 7-man rotation is very effective. And you still have other pieces that can kind of produce impactful minutes on the Suns bench, like Torrey Craig. So I do think the Suns have the deeper team here, and that's kind of a testament to the Bucks having that star power advantage.
For sure. And I mean, we got to talk about it when we're going off of what you just said there with the Suns. I just reminded me. So we got Scott Foster as the ref tonight, and I believe Chris Paul is 0-12 with Scott Foster. And we saw he lost last year in the bubble with Scott Foster in that elimination game against the Rockets. And do you think he's going to lose in this elimination game? What do you think of the referee? Do you think it's just far-fetched?
I do think Scott Foster is a good ref. Like, I think he makes good calls and he's very confident in his calls as well. He's not the type to make a call and then go back on it the next play and be like, oh, I'm not going to call this. He's very consistent, confident, and he's a decent referee. The whole Chris Paul drama thing, I really don't know how much accuracy it has, because obviously we see that Chris Paul is losing games with Scott Foster, which I do think can be coincidental at times. I don't think Scott Foster is going out there and throwing Chris Paul games. I saw another stat where Tony Brothers, another one of the refs, I'm pretty sure, has successfully forced 41 straight game sevens as well. So one of those stats is being broken tonight. So
yes, one of them will have to be broken. And which one do you think it's going to be? So you think the Suns will get the win. So I guess that you think Chris Paul is going to beat Scott Foster?
Chris Paul is beating Scott Foster. That is my prediction.
Heard it here first. So we got Tyler. He's thinking that Chris Paul is going to get that win tonight. And I think really it's going to come down to if the Bucks can really all have that complete game again. I mean, I like to say Chris Middleton is the most streaky star in the league. I mean, we see him have great games, and then it's like, this guy is not the same. So I feel like it's going to come down to, can he keep consistent and be clutch again? Is Drew Holiday going to be able to keep the defense going strong? Because, I mean, I know we always say defense wins championships, so we're going to have to see if Drew Holiday can keep that momentum going. I think it comes down to Middleton and Holiday's performance in this game 6 tonight. Who do you think this game 6 depends on, Tyler?
It comes down to the role players doing their job. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are definitely better than role players, but they're still playing a role. Drew Holiday as a primary playmaker for the Bucks offense and their best perimeter defender. Chris Middleton as a secondary scorer to Giannis and an outside shooter. And I agree with your point. Chris Middleton's very streaky and inconsistent at times. And that's because he's so jump shot reliant. He's not really getting to the rim like that. So it comes down to him having an on or off shooting night. And we saw the Bucks at their max potential last game. They're 3 stars firing on all cylinders. I really don't think that's going to happen again, which is why I think the Suns will take this game. But if it happens again, they're pretty much unbeatable when their players are clicking like that. So it's going to come down to, I think, Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton playing their part at a high level.
I could definitely agree with that. And I feel like the Suns, maybe they could step up a bit defensively. I feel like they gave up a lot of points. And in the past, in the earlier series, I was seeing them. I'm like, man, they're really stopping teams. And now they're just, I don't know, they're giving up a lot more points than I feel they should if they want to get the win. After all, defense wins championships. What do you think about the Suns defensively?
I 100% agree. I watched them shut down Jokic and the Nuggets juggernaut offense. Obviously, Jamal Murray being hurt messed them up a little bit, but the Suns played an amazing defensive series against the Nuggets. They've been great defensively the first 3 rounds in general. In this series, it kind of seems like, okay, the Suns aren't stopping the Bucks. The Bucks went on that huge second and third quarter run last game where it seemed like they got whatever they wanted. And I think a lot of that has to do with obviously role players stepping up for the Bucks, the 3 stars playing at a phenomenal level. But also I think the Suns' scheme for Giannis isn't working. I think they're at their best when Jay Crowder is on Giannis, and they're using DeAndre Ayton as kind of a just a last line of defense in the paint. DeAndre Ayton guarding Giannis, he's not laterally quick enough to keep up with Giannis when he's getting downhill or when he's doing his Euro steps. So it leads to a lot of last second fouls for and ones or just wide open layups in general. So I think this game, you need to have Jay Crowder playing up on Giannis and not letting him get to his spots, with Ayton kind of helping off of Lopez as a last line of defense. And I think that's your most effective approach for stopping the Bucks offense as a whole is make Giannis uncomfortable, pressure him at the perimeter, because Giannis isn't going to beat you with a first step, or he's not going to pull up for a mid-range in your face. He wants to get to his spots and attack the basket. So if you're not letting him get that running start in the half court, you can really limit his game offensively. And I think that's what the Suns have to do defensively. I think Monty Williams can make that adjustment, and they could slow down the Bucks offense this series.
Most definitely. And we saw in that last game, as I touched on earlier, with how the Suns got that early lead. Well, after that, we saw the Bucks really own that second quarter. They scored 43 compared to the Suns 24, and they can't let that happen in this game. I feel like the Suns, I won't count out the Suns yet. I feel like Chris Paul is hungry. If anyone can do it, it's him. I think that he can bring together his team and really get that win.
Yeah, for sure. I just think Chris Paul needs to be aggressive this game. Chris Paul was pretty much non-existent in the second and third quarter of last game when the Bucks went on that run. He was kind of deferring to his teammates and playing more of a spot-up role, and that's just not Chris Paul. We've seen Chris Paul take over games. We've seen him be the ball-dominant floor general he can be, creating plays, scoring at a high level. We saw it in the Nuggets series, attacking Jokic in the pick and roll, and I really feel like Chris Paul has to have a very aggressive game this game. Even if he's shooting bad, he needs to apply the pressure, the necessary pressure, to open up opportunities for role players in a similar way that we've seen Steve Nash, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, other all-time great offensive playmakers and engines do. I think that's what we need to see from Chris Paul this game, just attacking, constantly attacking, not letting the Bucks relax.
Right. And I mean, the Suns were never really out, like way out of that last game. I mean, luckily they got such a early on lead, but I feel like they were never really completely out of it. I mean, they didn't lose by that many points. The only thing that concerned me a bit, and I think it might be because of the reasons you just stated, when I saw Booker on the floor, everyone around was really playing better. And this is just specific to that last game 5. But when Chris Paul came on the floor, it seemed like everything went wrong.
Yeah, 100%. They had that second quarter stretch where Chris Paul came in a lineup with 3 backups, I'm pretty sure, and then Ayton, and they just gave it all. They just gave it all, and that's because Devin Booker has to rest. He can't play 48 minutes a game, especially these last 2 games getting into foul trouble. And when you're losing those minutes so bad, that's where Chris Paul has to step up and assert himself and be like, all right, I'm the offense right now. I need to take over this game, whether it's through playmaking, scoring, getting to the basket, attacking in the pick and roll. You just need to assert yourself as the all-time great point guard you are, so Booker can rest and come in and do his thing when he gets in the game.
Right. And the fact that we're stating that coming off of the last game, I think it just goes back to the fact that the Bucks had a complete game from everyone. They all played cohesively. The Suns, they weren't all there together. They were a lot of them were there individually where they needed to be. I'd like to see better from Chris Paul, of course, but they didn't play together, and they were playing ISO heavy, as we already stated, and that's not what the Suns need to do tonight. So that's what I think they'll have to do on their end to get the win.
I agree. I just think getting the role players involved, running your sets, and Chris Paul asserting himself offensively is what you need to do offensively. And, of course, slowing down Giannis and the spot-up shooters as much as you can.
Most definitely. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on today, Tyler. It's been a pleasure. Do you want to plug your YouTube or for us before we go?
Sure. My YouTube is Hoop Venue. I do all kinds of in-depth analysis on players and historic players. You can check that out if you want, and appreciate you for having me on the podcast. I don't really do things like this too much, but it was fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, it was a pleasure. So make sure you guys go check him out. And Mamba's Legacy, we have a ton of stuff coming soon. Make sure you guys go check out our website, which you can find on our Twitter at Legacy Mambas, as well as I have a podcast, a part of the network launching very soon, Rocket Fuel. So I'm excited to start that up very, very soon. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see y'all soon.